I was riding down the road the other day while doing some school shopping. And I couldn't help but notice that on either side of the road, there was so much greenage and foliage, and every tree was filled with all of these leaves, beautiful plush. You could hardly see the stems and the branches because the trees were so full and beautiful and plush and covered. The entire street, tall 30, 40-foot trees all down the highway. And it's the end of July. That's what you expect. And as I drove what was miles and miles down the road, I couldn't help but start to be enthralled with not only the trees and the greenage, but the concept of time and seasons. It is July 29th. August is 2.5 days away. By September, the trees will be completely colored in orange, browns, golds, purples, and a few specks of greens. You'll be able to see more brownage from the limbs and the branches. The air will be cooler and crisper. Jackets will start coming out. School definitely will be back in session because school starts Monday, August 3rd. The air will be different. Seasons will change. And as I thought about that and how quickly it is, I look back on the fact time changes so quickly. And that's somewhat what we want to talk about here today. Whether we're ready or not, seasons will change. Life is going to happen whether we're ready or not. But the question is not whether or not life will happen. The question is, how are we going to surrender to it? This is your girl, Tashe, with the Hope Collective at TasheLife. I'm so excited that you're here. Let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome. So, on today's episode, this July 29, 2026, on the Hope Collective with TasheLife, we're talking about life is going to happen whether you're ready or not. How will you surrender to it? And I had a few eye-openers for me, and maybe you can relate. Some of these thoughts God brought to my attention, and they helped me, and hopefully they'll help you. Because here's the deal. Hope isn't found by controlling life. It is found by surrendering to the one who already knows the end from the beginning and who created you for such a time as this. So this is what I learned. As we were talking about the trees and the seasons and babies growing up and life happening, life is going to happen whether we're ready or not. Like we said, babies are going to grow up, school is going to start, people are going to leave, people are going to die, people are going to be born, marriages begin, end, jobs change, careers change, locations change, diagnoses happen, children move on, move away, parents get older, the calendar keeps turning. None of us get to vote on whether life keeps moving. The real question may not be, can we change it, or can I stop this change? Because a part of me wants to have all 6 of my babies close to me again and have all of them sitting on the bed and waking me up in the morning and doing ponytails and getting haircuts and making breakfast. Part of me wants that. I miss running to Old Navy and doing orders and having a bunch of school uniforms at the door and getting ready for that back to school. A part of me misses that. But I can't stop the change. So the question would be, how will I respond when this change comes? And now that this change is here, you know, when we moved up here 4 years ago, my oldest son was starting high school. My youngest son was starting middle school. The last 2 of the Mohicans. I had 2 boys left. All the others had moved on, and life was changing fast. And I had to grab a hold of that. And there are a few things I realized, and I want to go through a few of these with you because, like we say, there's hope for every season. And I needed hope, and maybe you need hope too in grappling some of these seasonal changes. The first thing, we spend so much energy resisting what we can't control. We want certainty. We want guarantees. We want to know how everything ends. We want to keep asking why. When sometimes God just simply says, look, just trust me. You're either going to trust me or not. Either way it's going to happen. You're going to trust me or you're not. So, I realize I'm even like this with movies. You guys, I was the one, because of coming from a law enforcement background, I really only prefer comedy. That's my thing. I love a good comedy, maybe a romance every now and then because I'm a hopeless romantic, but I'm really into comedy because law enforcement can be so serious and emotionally taming that I like comedy. And so I found myself when I would go to the movies or we're watching the movies, I'd find myself, you know, my lo-fi music. I'd find myself before I watch a movie, who's in it, what is it about, how does it end, does anybody die, what do I need to know about the movie? I would have to know everything in entirety about the movie before I decide to watch the movie. And so many people would say to me, well, if I tell you the movie, you're not going to want to watch it. You got to go watch it. And I was the type of person, seriously, if you're not going to tell me about the movie, I ain't going to watch it. Because I wanted to know for certain what was it. Because if it was something I didn't want to hear, I didn't want to deal with, if I didn't want to feel that emotion, then I would not watch the movie. Dealing with death at such an early age. My mom died when I was 14, my mom who raised me. And it was heavily traumatic because life just goes on. For me, life just went on. I went from taking care of somebody at every stage of my life. And not that I regret it, but certain things, I didn't want to feel that emotion anymore. And so I would just check out. If any movie had death, if any movie had sadness, much as it is, great as it is, I would not deal with it. And I had to come to a point where, how you do anything is how you do everything. A lot of that dealt with how I dealt with life. I would want to know everything about life or how the situation starts or ends before I made a decision on whether or not I was going to be a part of it. And that wasn't full trust. That wasn't full faith in God and who's leading my life. If he can create the whole world, not to get preachy, but listen, whole world, I don't deny my faith. If the Lord can create the whole earth by speaking it, quite naturally, he can take care of somebody that came along in 1979. If this was hit for me. You understand what I'm saying? So I had to ask myself, and I want you to ask yourself, why are you exhausting yourself trying to control? What is the root that is there that is causing you to want to have to control the scenario? Was there a point in time when you felt you lost control? Was there a point in time when you felt somebody took your control? Was there a point in time when you felt there's a guilt there where you wish you would have made a different decision? And then things wouldn't have gotten out of control? What is it? We deal so much with fruit picking that we don't deal with root picking. And as we get ready to end July, which is the 7th month, the number of completion in God's framework. 8 is August, which the number 8 is new beginnings in God's framework. So as we get ready, just doing that symbolically, even though we don't have to wait till then, but just looking at that, what is it that we need to close out in this 7th month that we do not need to take with us in our new beginning? If we really want to create a new beginning, let's get to the root of why we're so afraid, why we need the control. I see people at work all the time that have to have the final word, the first, the final, the middle. They just have to be seen. And really they don't understand. And because of the deep rooted hurt or fear that is there, that there's something there that causes them to want to have that control, to be seen. And we don't want to carry that into this next season, because as we go through this, we're going to realize that, that's blocking us from getting more. It's like having a container full of something and we're trying to pour more of what we want in an already full container. And that full container is just gross, devastated, clogged, dirty, old, molded, right? So ask yourself, what are you exhausting yourself trying to control? Are there relationships? Careers, job? Is it your growth? Are you trying to control your growth? Are you trying to stay somewhere you're not meant to be? Okay. Point 2, surrender does not mean giving up. It does not mean giving up. I know we watch all the movies. People confuse surrender with defeat. Okay. Surrender says, I don't have all the answers. Okay. Surrender says, I can't control everyone. I can't control every outcome. Surrender says, but I know who holds my tomorrow. I don't know what my future holds, but I know who holds my future. I know when we watch the boxing matches and they throw up the white towel or the flag, we consider that surrender and throwing in, and we look at it in a negative connotation. It doesn't have, perception is everything. It doesn't have to be a negative connotation. It could just be, this is where my limit is. What's next for me after this? This is where my limit is. What is next for me after this? And there's only one who knows it. So I want to ask you, what is it you're not surrendering to? Is there any area of your life that you feel like you don't have all the answers? This is not fitting well with me. I can't control everyone. Why is this not working? I can't control this outcome. Is it some area that you're trying to manipulate and it's not turning out how you want? And maybe it's because you haven't surrendered the outcome to the Lord. Let me tell you something. And I'll talk more about this when we get into the marriage portion. But let me tell you, I'll never forget, I had just had my second baby. We were living for 8 months with my ex-husband's mother. And this Valentine's Day, it was February. And in January, because we had a tumultuous Christmas living there. And this January, my grandmother told me that I could not come live with her regardless of how bad it was, unless it was physical abuse, and it wasn't physical. She said, but what you can do is start looking for a house. She said, because if you can rent, you can buy. So anyway, and I know there are a lot of missing pieces in that, but I'll get into that on another episode. But anyway, so I started looking for a house, called around, found this house. God led me directly to this house. I can't wait till you all hear that story. And found this house and did everything I could to try to talk the man to get me a house. Look, I'll have my income taxes in the first week of March. Can I rent to own? I really need to get out of the situation. The man told me, no. I have people who are ready right now, 2 buyers with cash in hand, ready right now to buy this house. If you can't give me X amount of money right now, I can't do it. Shut me down. I said, okay, no problem. God, that's the way you wanted it. Valentine's Day came. My ex-mother-in-law, and all of her herness, it tied up both my ex-husband and my ex-father-in-law for an entire day. She told both of them she was working. She had both of them standing by to pick her up because she didn't know which one worked. So anyway, that totally annihilated any plans I was trying to have with my husband. So it was tied up all that day. And to the point where it was just, it was so maniacal. But anyway, so I went, and our Valentine's Day, of course, was ruined for the most part. And we're newly married because we've only had 2 children. So at that point, I went back to the house because I actually went to the job where he was waiting on her at and bought some cookies and all that kind of stuff because, that was just me being me. I wasn't going to let anybody show out. But anyway, that's a different story. I'm learning. I've grown. We get back to the house. He's ticked off. I'm saddened. She's gloating. Father-in-law's confused. It was just a mess. And we went to church that Sunday. So that was Saturday. Sunday we went to church. And the song in the choir that Sunday was, I think it's Chicago Mass Choir. But it's, when I gave it up, that's when he blessed me. When I let go, that's when he blessed me. And we sung that song. Oh, that song filled me with the Spirit. And then I came back to the house that day, that Sunday, and I cried out to the Lord. I said, Lord, you know I'm being mistreated here. Lord, you know that it is shameful and it is embarrassing how they're treating me. But I'm here to honor you. So if you want me to stay here and be mistreated like this for your glory with this marriage, I'll stay. But if you want me to have my own place for my family, I'll do that too. Whatever you want me to do, God, I give it over to you. Something popped and released off me. He knew I wanted to go, but it was something about saying it and releasing it. And when I did that, that was Sunday. I went to work Monday. Felt good. Tuesday, I got a call from the owner of that house. And I was like, who is calling me at the Sports Authority? I worked at the Sports Authority. And I said, who called me? And they said, Alma, you have a call. Well, I knew it was my ex-husband because he don't call. So anyway, I got on the phone and I said, hello, this is Alma. He said, Alma, this is so-and-so, so-and-so. I still remember his name and his accent. And I said, yes. He said, I'm the one who owns the house on 35th Street. My other 2 deals fell through and I wanted to know, were you still interested? Yes, I'm still interested. Okay, very good, very good. Now, did you say you have the money in the first week of March? I said, yes, I did say that. He said, okay, very good. I will start by sending my broker to you. He can meet you at your job and we can take it from there. Y'all, by April, on my anniversary at the time, I became a homeowner. Hallelujah. That story just still frazzles me. But the point was, it was when I gave it up. It was when I was no longer trying to control the scenario. I was trying to negotiate to figure out how I was going to get this house and whatever I had to do and whatever. And God will share his glory with nobody else, y'all. I'm telling y'all, wait till y'all hear that whole story. Girl, that whole thing was amazing. But anyway, that was a time of surrender. Another time was when I actually gave my marriage over. I didn't give up, I gave it over. I said, God, what do you want me to do in this? And he told me, you've done everything but leave. And I know there are mixed feelings about that because people like to say, well, God hates divorce. Yes. And I've seen a lot on TikTok and different places lately where people are telling people that it's unbiblical to divorce. It's not biblical to divorce with unbiblical reasons. It's one thing to lie on people. It's another thing to lie on God. There are reasons why God will give a biblical divorce. Abuse, neglect, abandonment. Those are reasons God will allow a biblical divorce. So we have to be so careful. And on that floor that day, I cried out to the Lord and I said, Lord, why is this happening? What am I going to do? I'm trying to save my marriage. He said, his heart's not with you. I say, but God, what am I to do? He said, you've done everything but leave. I said, but God, you say you hate divorce. And God said, yeah, I said, I hate divorce, but I never said I hate the divorcee. Something popped. I said, what? He said, I never said I hate the divorcee. So anyway, hope begins where control ends. Okay. So I had to learn that. And what was I not facing because of that? Because of what I was afraid of. So I had to get to the root of it. And when God shared that with me about my divorce, he said, this is how there was a new eye opener for me. And so when I let that go, I was able to move forward and be freed from that. Another reason, every season requires a different version of you. This is point 3. Every season will require a different version of you. The woman who survived divorce or man isn't necessarily the woman God wants leading your future. You may have been in survival mode. Who knows? The mother raising the toddlers is different from the one with the teenagers. The employee is different from the entrepreneur. Every season asks something different of you. And I want to ask you a question. Are you trying to live out this season with last season's mindset? Be honest. Are you trying to move forward without changing who you are or the capacity that you have? Are there things, remember we talked about the clogged pipe. You have got to get rid of what's clogging you in order to move forward. There's no room for it. Point 4, sometimes God changes you before he changes your situation. We always pray, Lord, change my circumstance, change this person, change this, change that. Meanwhile, he's changing your perception. He's changing your patience, your character, your boundaries. Your boundaries are big. Your faith, your perspective. Maybe the miracle that you're waiting on isn't just around you. Maybe it's happening inside of you. You know, I tell people often, there are a lot of things I tolerated when my children were growing up because my main focus was to keep them from taking my children. There was an enemy on the attack. I recognized the plan of the enemy. When you understand the story, you'll understand more. But I knew they wanted to take my children. I know it was going to come with trying to dismantle me and my character and everything like that. Not that I was perfect, but I kept the main thing the main thing. So because I knew that, there were some things I tolerated back then, because I knew where it would lead me to, that God in heaven knows ain't no way between here and hell they could try me with that now. There ain't no way. My children are grown. My responsibilities are different. My viewpoints are different. My tolerance, I don't have to tolerate or even deal with any half a pinch of the things I've dealt with before, because my children are on their own and they can make their own decisions. So I understand boundaries big time now. Could I have done better back then? Yes, I still would have made a lot of the same decisions that I made based on what God showed me and how he directed me. But I had to understand boundaries. So looking at you, maybe the miracle isn't just around you, maybe it's inside of you. What is God trying to change in you in order to change what's around you? And point 5, what does surrender actually look like? You know, right now I'm surrendered with my matcha and my robe and my bed from a long day. But what does surrender actually look like? It sounds something like, Lord, I don't get this. I don't understand this. I don't realize this, but I trust you. I trust you because you're you, because I trust your character. It looks like choosing peace over panic, obedience over fear, rest over striving, which is a big one I had to learn. Sometimes we're so busy doing, we're not resting. We're trying to make things happen when even the law of abundance tells you, just let it go. Let it go and watch the results make it, right? Faith over feelings, hope over despair. Those are all things that looks like you have hope for every season, regardless of what it looks like, over despair. Faith over your feelings, what you're feeling like. Rest over striving. You can't rest because you're trying to make something happen. Obedience over fear. Just do the next thing he said do. Whether it makes sense or not, just do the next thing he said do, and choosing peace over panic. So let's reflect on these things. So now let me tell you, 4 years ago in August, well, actually the whole first half of that year, everything was kind of dismantling. The guy I was dating, all of a sudden he was killed. We had just come back from a vacation. I told him that I felt like I needed to move and things were happening. Came back, well, his cousin was killed, then he was killed, then nothing was going right that I was trying to make happen, from trying to work out the apartment we were in to getting a new car. It was just, nothing was panning out. And I'm like, oh my God. Then after he was killed, it was just like, okay, this job called me up here. I had never heard of this area before. I said, well, Lord, I can't move because I don't have the apartment straightened out. I don't want to break the lease. And where am I going to stay? And I need a job and all that. All that panned out and worked out. Wait till you hear about that. And the kids were in school. Everything just worked out. And then it was one night, August 11th, where it was like, pack up and go. And I couldn't take one of my daughters with me, which broke my heart because I wanted to take that daughter and grandkids. And God said, no, not yet. She has to stay here because he had some things for her to do. And that broke my heart. And I took the other 4 kids, and my other 2 were down there, and we packed up and we left. And all of my things, everything that I knew was left down there, y'all. Everything that I had was left down there. The majority of my clothes, and I had clothes and shoes, over 100 pair of shoes, like all the things that I knew were there, and I had to leave. We packed up in this 2018 Ford Fiesta hatchback fishbowl, moved up here, and life just happened. I drove throughout the night, tears in my eyes. It's going to be a great scene in a movie. I thought life would look different. You know, life was different. I came up here, seasons were different, seasons was changed. I had my first cold storm. Some dreams came true, some didn't. I had to serious depression because it was a breaking to come up here. It was a breaking to come up here. I had to be broken. I had to go against lies. I had to go against a lot. And I didn't know how to do it. I had no other choice but to trust God. So some blessings arrived disguised as disappointments, but through it all, God never left me. He broke me. He built me. He allowed me to shed off things I didn't know I was still battling with, but it all worked together for good. And through it all, life still went on. Here we are 4 years later. My son is graduated. The other one is in the 10th grade. My other daughters down there have rocked their college. The ones up here have done their thing. So you look back and you're like, where did these 4 years go? I've changed jobs. That job I started with, I was up here, and now I have done an entirely different, well, still law enforcement, but a different area of career, and started our businesses. It is just amazing. But through it all, he never left. He never left. But I had to come to a point where I was surrendering. A lot of the resistance I had when I first started, when I had that anxiety, as public as I've always been, I couldn't even go in Walmart. But I had to come to a point where I was surrendering because that nature was battling. The fear, the anxiety was battling, and it had to be broken. And so I had some questions I had to ask myself, and I want to ask you, where are you resisting change? I had to start by being honest with myself. I got me some counseling, hired a new counselor for me, had to walk through things. I had to have a come to Jesus meeting with my children, tell them what I was battling with, like mommy can't drive to the store. Mommy can't do this. You know, mommy is working through some things. This was a lot of transition for me. It wasn't just up and go like people thought, and well, it was up and go, but it wasn't as peace. I can't say it wasn't as peace. It was traumatic for me because God, it was a faith walk because God literally said, do this. And I'm one to be obedient with him. So I had to do that. I had to ask myself, what am I trying to control? What am I resisting? What am I trying to control? What am I needlessly carrying? And what would surrender actually look like today? What would it actually look like today? What was I needlessly carrying? I was carrying guilt and shame and fear and doubt, things he didn't ask me to do. What are you carrying that's causing a lot of the outcomes you have? So in closing, life is going to happen whether we're ready or not. Seasons are going to change. Trees are going to be beautiful and green and plush, and then they're going to be naked and dry, and it's going to repeat. Long as we live, seasons will change. People will change. Even you will change, and we should change because we should grow. But here's the beautiful part. God doesn't ask you to have everything figured out. He simply asks you to trust him one step at a time. What's my right next move? Maybe hope isn't knowing exactly where you're going. Maybe hope is knowing who you're walking with. I don't know where I'm going, but I know the one who's walking with me. So understand clearly that this is the Hope Collective with TasheLife, where we believe that there's hope for every season. So today, don't focus on controlling tomorrow. Focus on surrendering today. And when today is too much, focus on this moment. When this moment is too much, focus on the second. If this conversation at all, as we're sitting here, I wanted it to be casual and calm, like we're all in the bedroom together with matcha or tea or coffee. If it encouraged you at all, if something spoke to you, even if it was one question, please be a part of our community. We all are better together. We grow together. Please like, subscribe, share this episode with somebody who's walking through change, and tell me in the comments how it may have blessed you or given you hope, or a question that stood out to you that you wanted to ask. What is one thing that you're surrendering to God as you step into this next season? What's one thing? Until next time, I want you to keep choosing hope, because there's truly hope for every season, and you're never alone. Until next time, this is your girl TasheLife and the Hope Collective. I'm so glad you're here. God bless you.